Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Hello, I can.
Awesome. I got this weird pop-up. It says leave audio. I don't know what that's about.
Oh, okay. I'm going to keep my camera off for a while.
Okay.
I missed lunch, barely had breakfast, and looked up and it was 3 o'clock. So right now, I'm eating right now.
I understand. Hi, Ramya. Hey,
Hello.
Elizabeth. So
Hi.
let me say, I just got a message from Robert. He's joining shortly, guys. He was on the road. So I hope you all are ready. You brought your questions. I know we're going to have a few new folks join the call today that joined in with the Christmas promo, but I don't think we'll have time for the introductions because we definitely want to take advantage of having Robert with us and get all our questions answered, and then we will reconnect and do all of the warm intros. So I cannot wait. And let me know if my audio goes out because I'm getting some kind of weirdness happening on my screen, new alerts that I haven't seen before.
We can hear you just fine. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. You're looking fabulous, Ramya.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome.
So quick question. So when you have new people come in, like when does our course kind of wrap up? How many weeks? Or I wasn't sure what happens.
Yeah, it's a 12-week usually, but we do have a few who sign up for 6 months. So some of those are with us as well. So we can look, Ramya, to see when you started for sure. Yeah. Hey, Megan, welcome, welcome.
Hello.
All right, so guys, we're waiting for Robert to join. Tonight we have a special guest. A lot of you have asked about the Texas market, nuances within the Texas market. Some of the folks here are in California. There are others in, awesome. All right, so welcome, welcome. So for those of you who are outside of Texas, but very interested in Texas, or those of you who are in Texas and are very interested in the areas of Texas where you can gain the most profitability and the least amount of saturation, I invited I invited Robert to join us in order to give us some of that information. And so I know he was in a bit of traffic and he will be joining momentarily, but in the interim, I did want to share with you an income report real quick that I put together for a client while we wait. And Rami, if you could let me know if you see Robert jump on, that would be appreciated. And then I'll shut up and just let him go. But this week, guys, I had a client reach out to ask about a property that they are wanting to put under contract. And this property is actually in the Hamptons of New York. And so unfortunately, the homeowner is distressed. Not the property per se, but the homeowner rather. And so a distressed homeowner coming from the real estate background is that homeowner who perhaps is going through a bankruptcy or some tax liability issues or even a divorce. So those are some of the things that can cause the homeowner to be distressed. And so this is a property that is worth, I would say close to 8 figures, but he's wanting to offload it for a low 7 figures, if that can be construed as low at all. So I created a report for the investor real quick, and I kind of wanted to share with you what my findings were while we wait for Robert to jump on. So this will be our little teaching for today, if I can find that report. Okay, I'm not seeing it. Okay, Clay's jumping on as well. All right, it is all good, but I do have a couple slides I can share from that report that I will share with you. So let me share my screen. All right. And don't judge all my tabs, guys. So as you all know, before we do anything in terms of looking at the numbers, I'm a big proponent for regulations come before numbers. So the first thing I looked at, even though the numbers look like it could be promising or encouraging, the first thing that I looked at were the regulations. So can you see my screen where it says regulations before numbers?
Yeah, we can. I think Robert has joined.
Robert has, okay, awesome. Hey, Robert, I'm going to do a quick 5-minute or so teaching, and then I'm going to let you take it away, my friend. So thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Rami, for letting me know. Thank you for being here with us, Robert.
Absolutely. No, I apologize. For whatever reason, my other phone cannot connect to this for whatever reason. So
Oh,
you run around, I've got 2 phones. So this is the other one. So I apologize. Thank you so much. I'll wait until you're ready.
awesome. Awesome. Thank you. And I know you wanted to jump onto your laptop when you could, so I'll buy you some time. Okay, so guys, regulations before numbers. So all I did was a quick Google search, a cursory search. So if you ever have a situation where you're speaking with an investor and they want to know what are the numbers for this area, how well is it going to perform? I say take a step back. Let's look at the regulations first. So according to the regulations, and this is just from a general Municode that I was looking at in terms of a summary. This is not the full Municode. It says under the code, a property owner can rent their residential property for up to twice in 6 months if the rental is less than 2 weeks. So 14 days or less, they can do that twice in 6 months. And over the course of the year, that means they can do that up to 4 times, okay? So I'm not a big fan of limitations when it comes to this type of short-term rentals. So outside of those 4 times, they would be required to rent the property at 15 days or greater. And so that really limits your ability to utilize the property as a short-term rental. However, there's still opportunity there. At least it's not a 30-day stay. And so we're still looking closely at the opportunity. So this is a property when I did the AirDNA search on it. So number 1, regulations. Number 2, AirDNA to look at the occupancy, remember? So that was part 2. Occupancy rate for this property is 60%, which is fabulous, right? Remember, I like it. Anything above 50%. I am sitting pretty, so 60% is fabulous. The annual revenue is quite astronomical, and then the average daily rate is quite high as well. So AirDNA primarily for the occupancy rate, but the annual revenue was also kind of off the charts as well. Data Rabu, remember that's my 3rd tool. Y'all, can you see this? This property is just incredible. The numbers are incredible. So Data Rabu has this property or properties that are within the range of bedrooms of this property, making anywhere from $5,000 a month in the low season, and it peaks during the summer. As you can see, 52K, 98K, 117K, which is ridiculous. The owner, the mortgage, I anticipate the mortgage is anywhere from 10 to 15K per month, which is really high. So the owner is trying to offload it now because they're getting ready for this really slump in their revenue over the next few months. So unfortunately, he's kind of in a desperate situation right now and trying to offload it. So just wanted to share this teaching as a quick reminder of what we're looking at. Regulations, then I go into AirDNA, then I go into Data Rabu real quick to see what the numbers look like. And then I deep dive and I'll do that market research to look at what the other properties are making. And when I did that, I don't think I have the screenshot there, but a lot of the properties in that area, this particular property was making around 1,600 a night was the average daily rate, 1,667. However, there are properties that are like kind that were making or charging around 3, 4, 7,000 a night, which was quite astronomical. And this, did someone have a question? Okay. And so with that being said, this specific property, and it's called the Glass House, it's in East Hampton in New York. It does have bookings for the next 90 days, and the average booking revenue for the next 90 days is about 52K. So just wanted to show you a property that came across my desk that I did an analysis for. I think this was on Monday or Tuesday. I want to show you, this is actually the Rank Breeze tool that I use when I'm looking at the ranking of properties. It gives me a little bit more additional data and wanted to share that with you guys. So with that being said, everyone, just welcome, welcome. I was doing a quick teaching while we waited for Robert, who has had the pleasure of joining us. For those of you who are new, welcome. Just know that typically we go through introductions, we go through how everyone's doing, if the house is on fire, what can we strategize on, or what can we coach on. But tonight I am super honored to have a guest with us tonight. And this is in response to a question many of you have been asking, is about the Texas market, about the Dallas market. Is there saturation? What about arbitrage? What about ownership? Where are the areas that I should invest? Because Texas has a lot of phenomenal up and coming areas. So I don't like to teach on things I don't specifically have an expertise in. So I am not your Texas expert, but I did bring a Texas expert on here to share with us tonight. We have Robert. Robert has over 100 properties that he has ownership in. He is arbitraging some, he's co-hosting some. So his properties are in Texas, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, Houston. I wonder if he has any Austin. Robert, correct me if I'm wrong, but he has a couple more in Arkansas and Playa del Carmen, Mexico. So he's for sure a class act and an expert. So I am so honored that you are here with your presence tonight. So Robert, whenever you're ready, I know you're trying to hook it up. I'll let you take it away. But before doing so, I just again want to welcome everyone. And if anyone has something on fire, feel free to unmute real quick, because I want to make sure I connect with you and we can get you out of any bottlenecks that you're experiencing right now. So feel free to unmute before Robert takes it away. Anyone have anything on fire right at the moment? Nope. All right. Robert, my friend, again, thank you. The floor is yours.
Well, first and foremost, thank you very much for bringing me and inviting me, Dr. Rachel. I mean, when we first met, Clubhouse had just gotten on, you know, it was crack house. We were both going 10, 15 hours a day on that site. You've continued now, and again, much as well as your wealth and your acclaim and your business success. My name's Robert Neundorf. I am a hosting and hospitality expert. I started really back in 2012, was the first entrance into Airbnb. I was living in Boston. I was doing a 3-month sales gig. I was going to be going traveling, and I told my roommate I can't pay rent. And we had kind of snuck into a peer-to-peer meeting, business meeting that BU or Harvard was doing. There was Lyft, Uber was there. They were talking about this new peer-to-peer space coming against big corporates. And we said, hey, let's rent out our room. And we did great. And then I moved here to Houston, Texas for the oil field and energy. We unfortunately spent and lost and invested a lot of money. I'm still waiting to get back. But, you know, I found myself point blank, just no paycheck and a home that I needed to pay bills for. It was an owner finance, and I was living up on Lake Conroe, north of Houston. And I just literally threw a king bed in and said, let's do this all over again. I didn't want a roommate. A roommate would have been 500, maybe 600 bucks a month. I started doing Airbnb. I was making 900 to 1500. That led me into throwing all of my clothes and all my possessions into the closet and begging my then girlfriend, now wife, to allow me to stay at her place. And next thing I know, I'm renting out the whole place for months, doing $500, $600 a month. And I said, hey, you know, everything in my life has been transactional. I'm tired of business models where my time has to be directly related. Now, I'm in sales. I love being directly proportional. I love that the amount of energy and effort I put in is directly proportional to what I get out of it. Anybody in sales knows that. It's one of those rare instances in life. So I started leveraging other people's places, properties. I didn't start in the traditional. My first arbitrage was actually a 1994 Bayliner Sierra cabin cruiser boat at a luxury marina. I met the owner. He said, you know, I pay this much. I said, I'll give you $600 a month. I went in and spent $1,500 and we started doing the come to the, you know, the marina for the weekend, stay and go to some of the restaurants, some really nice restaurants on the water of Lake Conroe, Houston's playground, and come and stay in a boat. And we had a lot of people love it. We were making $1,500 to $2,500 a month, and my overhead was $600 a month. So it was a fun arbitrage. I did timeshares. I had friends that had unlimited timeshare access to local timeshares, and I could buy timeshares. I've made $60,000 to $80,000 a year in timeshares, just leveraging them and helping owners pay back their maintenance fees. But ultimately, I found just a niche in being hospitality. I'm a Disney kid. I grew up in both Florida, California. I love not only providing a great place to stay, but wonderful food to eat and fun things to do. We want to provide a turnkey experience. So I got into just friends having houses, secondary houses. Hey, I'm moving to Colorado and I don't want to sell this house. What can I do? And I'm leaving everything here. And so we kind of grew organically bootstrapped into where we now have 150 properties. We've had the fortune, you know, working alongside a fellowship of individuals like Rachel have given me the ability to walk away. I fired 4 clients and 25 doors because they were not in our model. They weren't the right fit. We weren't providing value, but we leverage real estate. And the way I see it is the right potential asset. Your risk simply is the furniture. And you're going in and you're putting furniture in and you're providing convenience, which right now is a very opportunistic time because some people don't want to own. Some people are selling out of New York and max exodus. Some people are selling out of California, mass exodus. You know, the theme is to sell high, buy low, not sell high, buy high. So people are staying at Airbnb's month on month end. Airbnb said that, hey, 30, 20 something, 30, over 1/4% of their revenue is 30-day plus stays. And we know it. Insurance companies are reaching out to us through Airbnb because they can't find, you know, traction. I mean, Rachel, I don't know about you, but a lot of my business volume in the last 6 to 9 months have been insurance relocation housing companies that need temporary housing we had the Texas freeze, 2.5 million houses popped. Their pipes burst from small things like my own personal home in the garage and in our office. We were not necessarily, detrimented. We were not displaced from our home, but we could have sought alternative housing, but we didn't. But a lot of other people had. They came back from being away a couple of days and their pipes were just still bursting and gushing water all over the house. It was a total nightmare. So we got those clients, so what we're doing ultimately is just leveraging real estate through either arbitrage. I know a lot of people on here. I see a lot of you. Shake your head if you're interested in arbitrage. So arbitrage is not, it sounds new. It's not. I want you to understand, rental car companies, they're arbitraging. They don't own the cars, they rent them. Equipment rental companies, NEF, Sunbelt, United Rentals, Taylor Rental, they do not own that equipment. They rent it and they rent it to you at a premium. So the model is nothing different. I mean, here's even an example. Walmart does not own that building. There's a Walmart corporation that has a tier of companies from the ownership that owns the underlying land to somebody who's rented the land for 50 years and built the building. And then they rent it to the Walmart corporation, which is all underneath them. But for tax purposes, they've compartmentalized it, bankability. Those of you who've seen the Burr methodology right now, you can go and just buy money and houses on hard money, get a lender, get a leasee. You can refinance out of it. And we're doing that right now with builders. Builders, they themselves want to take and own more of the build outs they're building. They don't want to just transactionally keep building houses that they take a piece of just labor out of. So we're helping builders by saying, hey, we want to rent those houses. They're in ideal areas. So I kind of spurred a lot of stuff out. There hasn't been any central focus, but real estate is hot. How you leverage it is more importantly. This model is simply putting furniture, which up until COVID, furniture was easy. It was inexpensive, but now even furniture like used cars are getting expensive. And we just bought out a wedding venue that had $60,000 worth of furniture for $2,000 because it flooded during the burst and the freeze and everything, and they got paid out. So they're like, we had to just get rid of it. And so furniture is now a commodity. But I'd love to help and answer any questions that I could. Again, this is kind of a Q&A, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm passionate. This is an OPP, OPM world. You can play with other people's money. You can play with other people's properties. I mean, it starts as small as, Deanna, you and your mother having a room for rent, a room available in your mom's house. And she wanted to open that up. Rooms here in Houston are $800 to $1,200 a month because your alternative is a $1,500 to $1,800 efficient suite hotel room. And, I understand there's a scarcity or this very concept of opening your home to a stranger, but I did it. That's how I started. I have friends, my business partner who is an Airbnb guest that met me 5 years ago and stayed in my home, now owns half my company. Airbnb host meets Airbnb guest, develops and builds one of the best hospitality companies in the world. He's my partner. I brought him on 5 years after we met because we met at church again. Fun stories. But, again, the aspect is some people don't want a hotel right now. And even the CDC states that, vacation rentals, short-term rentals are the best. And even when it comes down to it, my family's been traveling VRBO 20 years because just the cost of food alone and eating a meal out every day does not computate. So people want a better experience. And you know what? This model works on anything. Rachel, I don't know if you saw my post, but I have a arbitrage. One of my most successful arbitrages is a single wide trailer home. I got it 3 years ago. I asked one of my buddies who's an investor who buys trailer homes to buy it from me. And because there was a $2.4 billion power plant being built down the road, and if I did rooms for rent, I could rent out the rooms for anywhere from $175 to $250 a week for the master with its own private bathroom. And I did that. It was $3,600 a month. I paid $1,100 a month for the rent. It was a very nice, clean, went in very well maintained. He did everything. He handed it to me in a bow. And I went in and furnished it for probably $7,000. I put $2,000 in cents, maybe $2,500 into the building because I don't ask him to pay for any repairs. I'll take the repairs. If not, he has to raise his rent or he wants partnership in. But this month alone, I typically average anywhere from $2,500 to $3,600 a month, on this single wide trailer that's got a detached garage, just a simple home, because, again, people don't want hotels. So this is what we call or consider workforce housing. Per diem, everybody talks about the traveling nurses. I don't like them. They're very competitive. A lot of them want to take that money home, whereas in per diem housing, power plants, refineries, large, anything you can easily tie into where all the per diem workers and traveling nurses are. But these are people that are coming in for 2 weeks, 6 months, as long as the company needs them to do their work. These are houses that are very inexpensive near massive industrial plants that nobody wants to live at. And you go right to the owner and be like, hey, can I rent that? We need some, housing for our workers, or we just have a client that we need to suffice a need to. And that's really the most effective pitch to anybody is, hey, we want to sell service accommodation. We have clients that don't want to come in, furnish houses, they just need housing, and whether it's for a week, a month, or a year, whatever, that's what we accommodate. Because right now people are mobile. And so I've got need and demand in this area. You got a great house. I've looked at it. Can I come in? Can I give you a corporate lease? Can I rent this from you? Can I put an insurance on it? I specifically go through SuperHog. Every single reservation is $1.3 million insured on the property above and beyond my $1 million corporate general insurance liability policy on top of Airbnb's $1 million. We're protecting their asset. We want them to know. And hey, we're only going to bother you. If it's anything over $250 or more, it's the HVAC, anything major. We'll take care of all the small stuff. Don't worry about that. When we hand you it back to the property, it'll be in same or like condition so you can rent it real quick, because our model depends upon this property being maintained at all times. So I kind of spewed a lot out. I'd love to answer any questions I can, but we folks are in a very opportunistic time. Just because it can be an Airbnb doesn't mean it should be. Your number one goal, besides, again, I love that Rachel had said legality, like, HOAs, does the locality allow go in? Is there an HOA? Does the HOA, have any limitations? You can read in, you're smart, go down and read it. It takes time, but you're looking for, is there a 30-day minimum lease duration? That means you're not gonna be like, does it say, hey, you can't operate as an occupational, transient, B&B, hotel, You know, there's a little one that says you cannot have 2 or more unrelated individuals occupying a homestead. That's a weird one, you know, but these little things like take your time. I mean, you know, if you're in here, you're intelligent, you're seeing an opportunity, you know, do a little bit more research, and it's either time or money. You know, you can, Rachel has a wonderful amount of information. You know, you can take the time and take up all the free, you can spend time and learn and build your own blueprint. You can buy something. But at the end of the day, what our market about is taking a piece of property, some real estate, making it available for somebody and catching anywhere from 500 to 1,000 to 1,500 to some of our properties are $2,500 to $3,000 a week plus. So our best month on one of our pool properties, which is a $500,000 property, is $31,000 a month for July. So we curate really nice spaces that people want to be at. And it can range, like I said, anything from just a simple single wide that, you know, the alternative for somebody else is to rent 2 hotel rooms for 4 of his guys, or you can put them in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath trailer home for the same price, you know. What are you doing, Kat? Sorry. But I would love to answer any questions. I mean, I'm sure some of you are either in the beginning stages or in the middle, getting up and going. But, you know, the most important thing is this business is about relationships, relationship with your banks as you grow, relationship with real estate investors. You know, Rachel will tell you, you get to a point where I can point at an 80 building unit and say, hey, buy me that building. I'll come in and I'll rent 20 units out. It's already got 30 units already rented right now. You'll instantly be able to put a bunch of money into it, refinance, cash out, take $500,000 out and go on to the next project, but give me those 20 units because that's really good. You know, there's good university, you know, there's also some good, polls coming in from government. Nobody talks about government in sam.gov. You know, I know good Alvin Cavalier, TJ Tajani, and actually, you know who it was? It was the other guy in
Noble.
Houston. Noble Prophet was the Sam. I was at was at one of the master classes, and he had did that, and I was like, God, sam.gov. I never realized. And if you're a professional management company, you have no problems. You can jump through the loopholes. There is some loopholes like anything else, but that's the thing. Like, you know, she talks about regulations. Don't go into this business running any underground operations because, I want you to imagine if you're going to go out and gamble, which is what we're all doing. Wouldn't you rather gamble a little bit of a assured bet, like you're lining your ducks up in the row earlier? I mean, at that point, like I'd rather just go out and just start some illegal illicit activity because I mean, hey, you know, the money's greater, you know, at that point than the risk. So, but yes, I'd love to answer any questions that people may have.
So we did have some questions beforehand. And so Robert, I just thank you so much. So what you're showing us here is what is possible, right? What is possible with arbitrage, what is possible with ownership, those relationships that we talk about often, guys. So some of the questions that we did get beforehand is the markets in Texas, is there saturation? And where would you say we're seeing the vast majority of that? I know there's demand, but where in your perception are you seeing saturation?
Saturation is going to occur in any city. And I mean, I'm launching still units in Houston. So how can I sit here in one breath say, yes, Houston is saturated? If I look at data that's thrown on our local Facebook groups of, hey, Houston has approximately over 8,200 listings and the average daily rate's 129. But then you go to Dallas, it's 5,000 and it was somewhere around 209, but it comes down to ultimately doing your due diligence. Rachel, I mean, I apologize. I wanted to jump into Rabu and I want to go back because we are looking and we see value in it. I need to understand it because the numbers are totally different from AirDNA sometimes, but everybody's going to be looking at data points and making a certain assumption. If we have multiple points of data, we can make a conclusion from, such as those who are currently operating, little hint, both Wheelhouse, Price Labs, and Beyond Pricing. If you integrate your account, you don't have to pay for it, but if you integrate your data and your listings in, they will give you free data because they want your authentic organic data. So you could jump in, you could do your own dynamic revenue without even paying them by just jumping in every day and seeing what are the 3 people suggest my price should be today and for the next week, and coming up with your own assumption, your own theory, your own thesis. There's so much free data. Same thing, AirDNA. Every one of you could jump on right now and go on airdna.co, get an account, go underneath the invest, the rentalizer, you put in an address and you put in 3 things. bedroom, bathroom, and occupancy. It'll give you 3 very easy points, as Rachel said earlier: average annual rate, your average annual revenue, and your average annual occupancy. I play in anything that's 45 to 50% plus because I'm a professional operator. I tend to think I can leverage technology and the market a lot better than most operators. I say that maybe in any market, 80% of the people that are operating are small mom and pops, 20% maybe professional outfits. We can leverage a lot better. I can do a lot better. I've got a lot better data. So we see anything in that where, you know, they may be 50, I can do sometimes 15, 25, up to 200% better in those numbers, you know, and specifically in the average daily rate. You know, we pride ourselves in a very high daily rate. You know, we may be 60, 65%, but we're doing 2 to 2.5 times what the average revenue is. And we're fine at that, you know, and so that's the other thing where you play it. You could be at 100%, but that if you're 100% every single month, you may be too cheap, you know, and at the end of the day, it's all, how much is our time worth? Is the juice worth the squeeze? You know, and same thing with all our clients. Will say, hey, listen, we're going to get this going, but in 3 years, if I find that we're dipping below 15% cash on cash, let's exit out. There's so many other opportunities. And, you know, Rachel and I live and breathe a network of investors that say, what are you making? We share so much information because it's like the second we hear of the next, you know, Tennessee Pigeon Forge. I mean, Rachel, I'd love to know a Pigeon Forge in the upcoming and in Gatlinburg, when we were buying $200,000 and $250,000 cabins that are now $600,000, and they're making $150,000, $180,000 a year, and the money is ridiculous.
And so that's one thing that you touched on, Rob, that Deanna ran into. So one of the properties that we're looking at for arbitrage, I don't think the juice was worth the squeeze. And so sometimes it's about walking away from it even before going into it. So with that being said, I know Ramya threw a question into the chat. Where in Dallas are good areas, and where in Houston are good areas to invest? And Ramya, are you thinking of arbitrage or are you thinking of ownership? Because I know that the answer may vary based on that.
I think we can start with arbitrage. Yeah, both actually for me, because I'm located in Dallas, and I just did the first property in North Carolina. I was brave to do it, you know, unseen, but I have faced challenges for doing so as well. So now I want to kind of see how is it going to go? Am I able to save more money if I do something locally? So,
you know, I mean, I could go to Mexico. We have in Playa del Carmen, you know, and it's wonderful. And the reason we manage it part-time is because our wealth, our value as an operator is only visible in 3 months out of the year. And that's during their short-term rental model. So we go in and we help just 3 months out of the year, their peak. Come back in after that, we put in, you know, your traveling digital nomads and other stuff because it's dead. You know, so you come in these areas, it's all about the opportunity now. What's nice about this is our business can leverage and can run solely on other people, you know. So for me, I've built my model to where I can have properties anywhere because our strength is built off of good reporting through technology, leveraging technology, also in with as well as good local, you know, no matter what, whether it's your own staff or a vendor, you're going to have somebody else take care of it. So for us, we just say, hey, our cleaners aren't just cleaners, they're cleaners, inventory, staging, and claim support and damages. So for me, my clients, I tell my clients, whereas you may prefer to have a local company, somebody that's going to look at the property, they're not really inspecting every square inch, but the cleaner is. They're touching every square inch of the property. So if I could actually build a system that's based off them every single cleaning, that's a better system than me even coming in once a month. And we still do, but we'd rather build a system that's more redundant on that. And that allows us to manage properties anyway. I haven't been to Fairfield Bay, Arkansas in 1.5 years since I've been to that property when we first bought it. I haven't been to, I went to Playa del Carmen, La Casa Corral back just after COVID started, before they shut down. So, but everything's still operating, and we've got vendors and automatic systems. I mean, technology has come so far in the last 4 years just for operators, small boutique, like they specialize for that. So don't let distance put you. The key is to go, who's the best? Here's how you pencil it. Who's the best in the industry? I want to go out and I want to build a model that I'm hiring the best, no matter what their cost is, of every aspect. My handyman, my gardener, my landscaper, this, that, the best, most, and everything. Because if it can't pencil on me hiring the best, then there's no sense in me finding a business where I'm going to later go back and have to find and gouge profits back from my vendors, so we never skimp on our cleaners. We ask them, hey, how much are you going to charge us to clean this place? Okay, you're gonna, $130. Okay, here's a question now. Will you do it on an app, and will you do your punch list on this app? Will you upload before and after pictures? And will you make sure that these other things are done? How much then will you charge us? Perfect. Thank you very much. You're going to charge us $290 now. Great. Because you know what? The guest is going to pay $350. A little upcharge for consumables. Like, we're not paying it. And then, trash service. Hey, add in for the trash service. Then valet, like, we hate asking our guests to take the trash bins out, and there needs to be a solution, because you showed up on Wednesday when trash is on Friday and the bins were full because the last guests were from Mexico and they went shopping at the Galleria, and oh my God, the amount of boxes they left behind were ridiculous. So all of this has systems. You want to pencil everything in, and they all do seriously make sense. I mean, for arbitrage, double rent is an easy number. Triple rent, you're killing it. So if you're renting a place, and bills and utilities are, $1,500, you want to be making $300 to $4,500. It's not walk away. It's not worth it. I haven't had the chance much to get into Rachel's trainings. I'd love to take and have the opportunity. I specifically buy and support gurus because anything I can learn. I drive a Toyota Corolla. So, I don't spend my money in my cars. I spend my money in my education. But, from what I've heard, and when we negotiate, you want to try to negotiate 3-year leases. There's no sense in going into a 1-year, 14-month. That's not your business model. Your business is long-term, and you have to realize the value is, if you do good in 3 years, you could sell that. You could sell that business. Hey, I got this apartment, 2-bedroom, 2-bath. The rent is $1,400 a month. We're making $3,400 a month on average. I just need to exit out. Would you like to buy this? All day long. Furniture, you see it on the local Facebook groups, people who can and can't hang, selling their furniture all day long. But you want to take and at least try to negotiate anywhere from I would say an 8 to 15% off market rate rental. And at the end of the day, you have to be able to substantiate yourself. Well, why would I do that? Mr. Landlord. Well, I'd ask you that because if at worst case, after I furnish this, if the market goes really south, if I have to rent just at market at $2,000 a month, which you're charging me, I need to be able to make a profit. So, I'm asking for at least, $2,750 versus $3,000, or $2,800. So, that way, at least if I have to go and I have to rent this place at $3,000, then that way I'm making a little bit of margin, that my business model will be secure in that I'll be able to always pay you, same thing. So, but you don't want to run on a model like that, that's where the due diligence, and there's so much free data out there plays. You run it backwards. I'm from oil field. So we did feasibility models. We'd run it backwards. Okay, what's our rent? What's our utilities? What's our furniture? Furniture, 9.5 to 12 months is a good time to pay back. 5.5 is the best ideal. And in 5.5 months, you should be paying back your furniture. If you're doing 100% of all your money towards it from there, you could take and put furniture in any decent place and it's worth $400 to $600 to $800. 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, $800. Any real estate agent will tell you, you can rent that place, market plus $800 easy all day long, no utilities. So find places you have an exit strategy. 3 months is a great, 6 months is a hard pull. But hey, if your business fails, I'll pay 3 months right now, flat out. You can still put somebody here. I'll exit out and I'll give you 3 months cash out. But your business, you you shouldn't have to put your model shouldn't really put you in those positions, but you can put them in, And another person that's a good friend of mine who does a lot of arbitrage says, certain clauses such as, if the stock market drops 700 points in any one day, if there is another recession, if we do go into another global pandemic, I would like to be able to exit out of my clause. So these are things, again, it may not be something you can put in the first one, but your first one, and I know, Rachel, I tell all the time, everybody's always like, well, where do you get these opportunities? You get these opportunities through relationships. Your easiest place is to jump on meetup.com, Facebook, Eventbrite, and find local real estate, RIA, Real Estate Investor Association meetings. Your real target for most of you is a multifamily investor, somebody who owns 5 or 7 or 10 buildings that are anywhere from 8, 10, 15, 20 units plus, and just ask them, hey, we do serviced accommodations. We're looking from in this area. We see it, we've got a lot of demand. We've got clients we need to service. Could you give me a list of your addresses? And when those leases expire, I'd love to see if maybe there's a good potential, because landlords love us because we always pay on time. We always take care of our places because we're catering to our clients' needs, whether it's coming in short, midterm, long stays, whatever. And at the end of the day, when we're done, they don't have the overhead of having to make ready to get the place ready for the next tenant. They can move in almost immediately. and we always pay on time because our clients always play before they step in. So we're more of a secure tenant, corporate. So we play these aspects and that's it, And I mean, builders are a great avenue right now. Builders are building new. So you see a new building going up. If you get in and be like, hey, who's the leasing office? And go in and be like, hey, who's the owner? And usually you can get in before the PM gets in. But hey, I'd like to see if I could grab 5 units, because they're still in building stage. They haven't went to the bank and refinanced their loan yet. And they want to show 40, 50, 60%, of their buildings pre-secured through leases. Not only that, but most of the time, like, hey, yeah, we'll be ready in 6 months. You're like, hey, great, here, I'll sign it right now. I'll build and I'll get ready. So day one, when I step in, I'm literally ushering all my furniture right into these units. And within 30 days, I'm up and going. Or you can negotiate, hey, we want to take 2 or 6 or strafe it in. But, for people building, everybody says there's not enough housing. There's so much real estate, especially if you get into the owner's level or the builder's level, it's very easy,
A lot
Sorry,
of gems,
I talk
Robert.
a lot. I gotta shut up.
No, a ton of gems. I think you just did a master class here on relationship building, networking. Guys, don't sleep on the RIAs. I love that. Don't sleep on connecting with investors because like you said, there's a lot of people have the impression there's saturation. And so if there's a lack of properties, then you go to the ownership level. So let me look here. So Elizabeth did second the question that Ramya has on what are good areas to invest in Dallas. So I know that's a question that keeps coming up. So what would you say, Rob, which areas would you avoid then? Because I know we're looking at the numbers, right? In terms of, can we make double, can we make triple rent? What areas would you say were your most challenged or what assets were your most challenged? Would you say that single family homes perform better than apartments and so on and so forth? Are you looking at 2 bedrooms, 1 bedrooms, lofts? What can you give us some nuggets in terms of what are you offloading from your portfolio and where are you looking to grow?
So I think we're, going back, and again, thank you for reprefacing the questions. Dallas, I really like Frisco. The PGA is about to build a $3.5 billion headquarters. They're moving over there. There is some heavy regulations. You do have to be able to jump through loopholes. So it means you do have to run a real professional business. But I don't see regulations as daunting. I don't see them as an offset. I see them, some people like Houston or certain areas of Texas because they're fully unregulated, but that doesn't mean that at some point they can't become regulated. I'd rather walk into a regulated landscape that already has set regulations because they've already went through it and this is what they chose. Now, for them to continue to get stricter, I may have some say in that, but at least they've chosen something, but Houston, yes, Houston. I think Houston, because it's so popular for arbitrage, I don't know why, maybe you could tell me, Rachel, but the smaller units. So for example, I faced a lot of challenge launching an 8-plex in 3rd Ward, Houston. And what I mean by that is renting out the individual. Out of the 8-plex, it was 7 2-bedroom, 1 baths and 1 1-bedroom, 1 bath, all in 2 buildings. It was a former crack house that we completely gutted and redid, whitewashed. It was beautiful, amazing, AstroTurf, a nice courtyard. But we were not renting the individual units and nothing. Traction, we came in right after the Louisiana hurricane. We got a little bunch of people that came in for that, but then it just went dead. And we're like, what are we doing here? And we looked at the market and there was 389 units, similar type category, everything competing against us. And certain points, you look at it like there's no matter what you do, like we professionally do clickbait hacking in Airbnb by doing free price Facebook ads all over beg, barter, buy, and buy, sell, rent real estate to our Airbnb listing. So we are ranked first. So we're doing proactive things. So versus the set it, forget it mentality in most arbitrage of, hey, I'm just going to list it on Airbnb. Like we're touching our thing every single day, all the time. We're giving attention like you give your husband or wife, because if not, your life becomes bad, like you got to give up. So, but, so if you're not doing that, you're going to fall down that very quickly. So what was our key to success in those was we started tying 2 units, 4 units, and 8 units all together. And we started renting out beyond 6 months, the whole entire 8 units. And the 8 units just on the weekends, 2 days was 16 grand, for 8 units for Friday and Saturday. And we started getting a bunch of bookings because where else are you going to sleep 30 people? And a lot of people love individual units. So as you do arbitrage, that is your success, is in the multi-tie or conjoined units or next door, like anything we're going into, we're making sure a duplex, give me both sides. I'll start with one, but I eventually want the other, because you know, hey, it's great to rent out a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, but if I tie the other one, it's now, 4-bedroom, 4-bath, sleeping 18 people. And that's 3 families coming together because what's the difference? They rent 4 hotel rooms and they don't have a ballroom. They got to, go jam in somebody else's hotel room, or they can come stay at my duplex with a huge backyard that's just dividable by a fence and you can open it right up. So we got more successful in the multi. I think that's where a lot of people get is studio 1s, 2s, the lighter units. That's where everybody got excited about arbitrage and became heavy and deep. And some people went in and spent little to no money and Facebook marketplacing. And some people went balls deep doing, $9,000 to $12,000 for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And the place looks like an Instagram porn venue. And, and that place is booked out for 6 months, but that's not your competition because they're booked out for 6 months. It's everybody else, so our model is that we curate unique spaces that captivate our guests' attention, delivering a once-in-a-lifetime experience, leaving them begging for the next adventure. Our business model is to build an underlining landscape of common themenality properties. So when you stay at one of our properties, which not only are we providing, again, making sure you got a great place to stay, but wonderful food to eat and fun things to do, is to bring that adventure to another landscape when you're ready. So you stayed at our place in Houston, we're ready to bring you to Dallas. Go up and stay there for one of the, the Cowboys versus the Texans game. We're 25 minutes from, the Cowboys venue. That's our marketing pitch later on down the road. And by the way, hey, we also put your favorite charcuterie board up there, what you got last time when you stayed with us. So all these things play into it. The experience and the services are what make the money. There's so much more verticals beyond the revenue and the rent. In Turo, if you want to get into that, or just offering and finding a Turo partner, we're getting into everything. We actually have consumable products or kit. It's called Be and Sell It. And they actually ship us everything for free. They're all in these very nice, package like Twix, 2 packages of Twix inside like this black, sealed package, kind of like your Ziploc, package you get into the medical dispensary. And it's got your kicks in there. And it's a QR code. It's kind of like you went into the hotel and, there was the Ferrero Rocher sitting over there at the Marriott. And it was like, hey, it was $4.99 if you grabbed it. So, the business has so much verticals to it, beyond just the accommodations as well. The business model, I'm in the service industry, is huge. You don't need to get into being an Airbnb host, get into the business. There's so many people popping up just doing cleaners are always necessary. And if you're a good cleaner, man, you can make $45, $50 an hour all day long, easy, because I'll pay you that, but it's a fun industry and there's a lot of ways to leverage it. So, but Houston is tight. I'd stay away from smaller, some of the times when you go into the units, for 1 or 2, you could go rent a townhouse at the same amount of money. You'll have more in furniture, but you'll take yourself from, something you're renting at around 1,500, maybe hoping for 3 to 5, and you'll rent it for 2,000 for a townhome, and you'll maybe be up to 6 to 7, up to $10,000, with a nice rooftop, AirDNA numbers, when we look at them, my biggest thing I know for a good property is if I know the purchase price. If I can't pay that purchase price off within 3 to 5, so if it's a $500,000 house, AirDNA better be showing numbers somewhere between $80,000 to $100,000 minimum. Then I'll touch it. Even if you're not buying it, those are play numbers you need to recognize marketability in the current market and the revenue dollars of what the houses are selling for versus the short-term rental revenue that they're averaging. And that's an average. So if that's the average and I can pencil and I'm hoping to get better than average, that's where I play. So you talked about Dallas and Houston. Houston, I'm out of Houston, honestly, Spring Woodlands, Katy. I've got a house right now that I just got booked out for $6,000 for 5 weeks in Hockley near Cypress. Single family homes are great. Again, it's all the data. Don't get stuck up in where, get stuck up in the data. Make sure it's marketable. Hey, this place not only is great for short-term rentals, but there's big corporations going nearby. There are traveling nurses if I have to start renting out rooms. There's other corporations, and if not, hey, this house is in schools that are 8 and 9, and families that are moving to the area. This place has got a lot of real estate. We're in between interim housing, or hey, our closing's delayed. That kind of stuff. Houston is good for that right now because a lot of that's been a lot of our plays is people moving to the areas. But how do you survive after that is the question.
So what about technology? I have a question from Annette. Thank you, Annette, for jumping in. What technology are you using to operate remotely? And I know you mentioned a punch list for your cleaners. So what else you got going on?
So we are moving over to a new PMS. PMS is a property management system. And so we organically, though, previously had our own tech stack. So I was using a company called Smart B&B, now Hospitable. Love, love, love them. They are a kind of can manage pricing, can manage calendars, a little bit of a light multi-channel between if you're just on Airbnb, VRBO, and Booking.com, perfect right there, the sweet spot, those three. It can manage everything there, communications, the data coming through it is wonderful. The company is wonderful. That's how I've managed everything. You want to find a dynamic pricing tool. Again, it's just an algorithm. You are your best CME, content management expert. You're going to know it better than anybody else. So the dynamic pricing are just a tool that you tweak, so that's important. Inside the houses, every property is equipped with Wi-Fi enabled door lock, Slodger, Yale August lock. They integrate into a lot of the later on systems like remote lock and these other ones where you can tie right into Airbnb and it'll just be automatic. We use minute point security devices. Those measure noise, pressure, air pressure, temperature, humidity. I mean, if a pipe bursts, we can notice there's a spike in the humidity, even though we may not know inside the house. Hey, why is the humidity 3 times more than it's ever been? Something's going on. Or here's a fun one, ready? Your smoke or your CO2 alarm's going off. Nobody's at the house. What do you do? That'll tell us, hey, for 5 minutes, an alarm's been going off and we know, and you're like, well, there's nobody there. Like, what's going on? Your house could be burning down or something. So it's things like that. And then cameras are important. At least Ring is good at the entrance. It's not as reliable. Yale or Nest are great. Hardwired are always best. If you have a pool, you always need to have a hardwired camera on the pool. I don't care what they say. When it comes to a court case of multi-million-dollar, you want to know exactly what happened instead of it be, a hearsay of, hey, this is what, sorry, I got to get my power cord. Then, you get into, for screening, we use a company that is called AutoHost. AutoHost is a company that once you book through Airbnb, VRBO, you get sent a link in your check-in instructions. That link will ask you to, upload your ID to it, front, back, kind of what Airbnb does. While it's doing it, it also authorizes you to GPS pin where you are. And so we'll know if the phone you're actually using to upload your ID is actually owned by you or whether it's a burner phone, the credit card you used and everything else, it'll pin you in. So what we're doing in this whole thing is we're signing a lease and we're creating a document keychain, not just for Airbnb, but for VRBO, Booking.com, or direct bookings of if this person was to come and do a chargeback, that's the worst. You get a nice booking, $3,000. 6 months later, $3,000 gets taken out of your bank account. And they're like, oh, Visa, MasterCard, American Express disputed this. It is something I've never in my life seen a chargeback from Airbnb. I have seen chargebacks from VRBO, especially if they are the payment master, and Booking.com is the biggest scam of the world. You better make sure you're set up correctly for Booking.com before you step in there, because if not, you'll have a lot of people that won't show up, or a lot of people that show up and say their name is Sam and they're Wendy, and they'll be like, oh, but here's my credit card right here on my phone, and this is my ID. I lost my ID, and next thing you know, 6 months later, your money's taken out of your bank account. But technology, there's Guesty. There's some other good softwares. I mean, Rachel, what do you use for your PMS or softwares?
So we're using Streamline right now. Which PMS?
Ooh, you went in rich. Streamline's wonderful. I mean, listen, Streamline is for aggressive growth seekers because they can take on a lot. That's V Lee, a good friend of mine who's down in Galveston. She started when I met her and she had 20 something prime. Now she's at like 80. And she's like, I chose them because they can onboard properties like nothing. Yeah. And so, but technology.
Where are you going? Where are you looking to transition? You say you're moving from Hospitable?
So yeah, so we're still going to carry them for a couple of our small things, but we got kind of romanced by a company, Front Desk, that built a software called Lever. Front Desk has 700 properties, both between their own and their arbitrage. And they kind of developed their own system. And we were just spending so much time in that tech stack between all these different companies, Remote Lock, AutoHost, Superhog, Hospitable, and all down the line, and we use for QA, QC, and for cleaning, we use a company called Easy Inspections, which is not easy. They're difficult. We're literally just looking at their system and taking what they're doing for us and recalculating it, but they work great now. It's a nice report at the end of the day. It's a checklist, before and after pictures. But our owners love it, especially because you pass it forward, or at the end of the day, you see like a full report and you can go through and be like, the guest is like, oh, well, it was dirty, and you can look at pictures and be like, okay, no, it wasn't, or hey, yes, it was, and I see that here, Yeah. But Lever was in a situation where they took their software, brought it to market. we are in kind of their early stages. So they kind of hinged onto us. We're kind of working with them. So we're excited because it's in dealing with the tech, you get very quickly sold. I'll tell you this now, people, you'll get very quickly sold, but the support sometimes does not follow through. You know, you'll email, hey, I'm having this problem. They'll send you their first response, is to immediately just send you back some YouTube video or some walkthrough. Hey, this is how you do it. You know, so, and we spent weeks doing that. It gets frustrating. And when you see reservations fall off the line and things because of it, but tech can be leveraged very easily. And there's a lot to it. Just watch your costs, especially.
Yeah, definitely. And so for a lot of us who are just starting with our first or second property, I think Hospitable is robust enough to get started. So I would start with that. I know some are doing hostfully or guesty for host. Those are adequate as well. We do have another question. I know some people are going to jump off for another mastermind at 7. So let's see. I have a family member who owns in DeSoto, Texas, and wants to STR. Do you happen to know how's the market there in DeSoto, Texas?
I would have to say, I'm looking right at it, Teresa. I'd have to say the same thing I do. Send me an address. That, you know, I'm not familiar with DeSoto. I'm not a Texas native. I'm from New England, so I apologize. You know, and Texas is so huge. That could be out towards San Antonio. That could be up towards Dallas. I don't know. But for us, no matter what, I can have opinions, but always what I do for my investors is I back everything by sound data. You know, so I always tell my clients, like, my job is only to do 2 things. It's to equip you and to educate you to make informed decisions. Now, if I can come in and offer value, this is why I spend time and, you know, working in the fellowship that me and Rachel do, because I just want to be here. I want to learn. And along the way, if I meet some like-minded individuals and I can help them pursue their generational wealth, being of value, because some people want to be involved in it. And, you know, and depending on how much you want, sometimes you're my client. You know, if you don't, yeah, we get people who are very opinionated, like, well, why is my price so low this week? And why is my price so high this week? And I'm like, what are you looking at? What are your expectations? You know, like, we're killing it based upon the numbers we told you we were going to get when we started and where we're at now. But, you know, again, it's a fun industry, you know, and again, whether you're just doing this completely yourself, there's not been, you know, there's so many ways to get rich, they say out there, but I haven't found an industry, because I literally, my wife's, we're getting ready to go out to dinner with one of our clients, but I met her with $20 in my pocket, you know, and lost everything from the oil field and started this. And I've, you know, begged and scratched my way up. And a lot of the learning has been from individuals like Rachel, you know, and just spending that time. And, you know, if I had the money, you know, and I was in it now, you know, there are great programs. I'm sure that, Rachel, you buy the blueprint, because time is money, and money's falling out of the sky. And will we be in the same position where we are right now in 3 to 5 years from now? No. Same thing with Bitcoin. It's going to be different, but are you taking advantage of Bitcoin now? No. Well, then 3 to 5 years from now, when it's huge, you can't get mad at yourself. Same thing now, but we always see real estate as a wonderful asset, capital class A, you know, and short-term rentals failing into it is just really the risk being the furniture, you know, and positioning yourself again, you know, if you're going to be making 500 to 1,000, I mean, I want to make at least 10 to 20 per every arbitrage net. $10,000 to $20,000 should be a sweet number. If it's not worth your time. It's not worth my time, you know? So even after my management fee of 15 to 25%, I want my clients to make that much money. If not, I'm not providing a value. You know, I don't want to walk in and be like, hey, yeah, you made
20 per year. Is that your annual net that you're looking to make?
It depends on I mean, those are simple classes, $150,000 to $250,000 houses.
Okay.
You know, I mean, but you know, we're bigger pockets is saying $300 to $500 a month on the long-term play. And that's really, see, $500, you're lucky. But again, you know, when you play the long-term aspect, it's like, all you need is 2 months of no vacancy in a calendar year. And no matter what you do, you're already at a loss. You're just catching up.
Yeah.
You know, same thing, you know, I mean, so that's what I didn't like. Or one bad, the water heater goes and there's $1,500 install and replacement. There's all your profit for the year. Good luck, you know.
Yeah.
At least short-term rentals, you know, I again, that single family trailer home, I pay $1,100 a month. My utilities never go more over $1,350 all in. I spent $7,000 2.5 years ago for furniture. And I took the lowest booking I've ever taken, which was $4,400 for less than 45 days. So, you know, less than 2 months. So it came out to like $2,300 a month. It's the lowest I've ever been, but it's in January and February. It like covers, it spreads out my worst times. I'm like, 2 people only. I'm like, yeah, this works great because I'm still walking away $1,700 out of the whole thing. I'm making more money. I just had lunch with my friend who owns it and bought it for me. And we just admitted to a friend who is getting into short-term rentals. He's a wholesaler. He's like, oh, short-term rentals. And he said, wait a minute. He's like, you only make $200 a month. All bills in, everything, you're 900 and you make 200. And this guy's over here. He's like, how does it make you feel? He's like, great, because I can go buy more properties now. So,
Yeah.
You're playing with it. The relationship is the key. Everybody plays a role. Are you lending the money? Are you buying the house from me that I'm going to give you the lease that you need to take that lease to go back to the bank and refinance out? Go find somebody who's doing the Burr methodology. They need they need somebody, they need a leasee. They need to take to the bank a lease person, could be your LLC. Most banks will take that. And we've seen it all day long, but you got to start somewhere, So
what about corporate housing? We have a question from Dr. Aranola. How do you get connected to corporate housing if corporate housing isn't furnished? Can you?
I think.
Okay, go ahead. If you
So corporate housing, in my opinion, and falls into your, large traditional is large equity groups owning 600, 500,000, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 homes that are some are furnished. And so, some of those, their margins historically were nothing like short-term rentals. They're furnished, but they're 6 months to a year. Again, you can do apartments. The corporate housing, though, truly get into corporate housing, you need to be an entity. You need to be a real company, because the corporate housing is, hey, I have a portfolio of 50 to 100 properties. You deal with HP and you deal with all the logistics of the travel. I've got properties in the area that you may be traveling. And that's what true corporate housing is. It's hard to compete, and that's typically where HP will also have a contract with you to take out and rent so many houses. That's the traditional path. People say and use the term corporate housing as a veil to not say Airbnb. I like serviced accommodations, but I mean, again, corporate housing, the trueness of it is just a business person who's staying in an area for a short, mid, or long term, and their company's paying for the housing. Again, most companies aren't just going to jump on, and most companies that I know, Airbnb has not taken advantage of, that market. I mean, Rachel, Work B&B, and their group, they're trying to go, but there really isn't an out platform for that B2B, that business to business space. They're trying to create it more on the large scale, but some people use it. Marriott, for example, any corporate entity I know uses Marriott, and Marriott is their own OTA, their own online travel agent. They're like an Airbnb. If you are able to pass through their barriers, we just became a Marriott partner. Your houses can be listed and you can spend your Bonvoy points to stay at my place or other places. So that's another, in my mindset, they came actually at 2019 and announced it at BMRA, but they joined the game and said, hey, we got 154 million people. We got more people than Airbnb does. We want to stay at your house. So again, the underlying asset, whether you're renting it, which is controlling it, rental arbitrage, you control it. At that point, you're in a better position than the owner because they no longer have any legal rights to it. You do. And so that's why the verbiage and the termage in your contracts are very paramount, and please read them. You don't need to be a scientist to look into it to see you're signing a residential lease that says, hey, you cannot sublet it. That's not your lease. You want something that is a master lease or a standard, commercial lease with a subletting addendum, So, Rachel has always got a lot of information, but, corporate housing is just an ominous word. You can start from just, apartments or condos or complexes, or you can start with townhomes or duplexes. You can start with anything, but all it was traditionally is just talking about getting into providing it to the workforce, the B2B space. It's not popular right now. You don't hear anybody talking about really the corporate because, not a lot of businesses, they're all remote, they're not traveling to their clients. That may come back. We'll see. COVID's kind of changed that corporate landscape. I mean, do you agree with that, Rachel? I haven't heard a lot about, except for people using corporate housing as a term to veil Airbnb when they're talking about arbitrage.
Yeah,
I try to keep it just very straight and real,
Yeah, not too much traveling workers for sure, but we do get some that pop up here and there. And I went ahead and I sent you the address that Teresa shared. She said it's near Cedar Hill in Texas, so you can take a look at that.
Yeah, okay, yep. So why don't we take the next question? And I'm on my phone here and I'm pulling up my AirDNA, which I do own Dallas data.
Awesome. So Annette is asking, in the Houston market, what strategies are you using to attract booking guests? So she has a property where she's looking to up her occupancy. What are some strategies that you have in mind to attract your guests and kind of stop the scroll and be above the fray? And I know you mentioned a little bit in terms of your clickbait hacking with the buy and sell groups. Is that your top strategy, or do you have a couple more nuggets you can drop in there?
I mean, so that's a very good one. So when you start talking and getting into revenue management, which is the other side of dynamic pricing, revenue management is when you look at the market, you look at what bookings are being created, how far people are booking out, which we call our booking window, and the varying ranges and data points that come into play of that. And you start to create a thesis. You say, hey, other houses of my similar size are seeing this type of data. If there's this many views, this much conversions, I'm going to make these assumptions, and you'll start to play on that, and you'll develop what is called a revenue thesis, or some sort of, some type of booking theory you're going to play with. Now, most people, for example, think, let's drop our nightly rate. That's not most cases a valid statement. Now, dropping the rate, yes, but how about dropping the rate across a various length of stay? So as we all know, it's easy in most cases to achieve bookings on the weekends. That's the cream, that the booking the weekends and maybe 3 days each weekend, that covers it and makes it viable. But the real model in it is at least booking out minimum, the other 2 weeks. You should be 10 days less consistently. Again, that model will tell you, you looked at AirDNA, it said 50%. So, hey, 50% calendar, I'm booking out 15 days out of the month. This is what I'm going to make. Go backwards on that. So, but there are rule sets in Airbnb specifically where you can say, hey, if you book 3 days, you get 10. If you book 5 days, you get 15. If you book 6 days, I mean, it's a week, it's going to get there 1 week, the 1 week discount. But, in slower occupancies, aim for, it's a play. They call it RevPAR. So you can be, you can be $1 a night down here and you can be 100% occupied, but then you're too low priced, or you can be $1,000 a night up here, but then you're 10% occupied. So you're trying to find this happy medium. It's called RevPAR, revenue per available rental, in this aspect of what is the sweet spot, where we're somewhere, and they say it's between 75 to 85%, of what we're getting, and then of course, and that's somewhere between $145 to $165 a night. Weekends may be up more, so you have to look at this. You have to look at competition. You have to look at who's booking. I mean, the data's out there. You can see the dude who's next door has got the same identical house that you do, the triplex, and he's decorating. You can see what dates he's booked out and what he's booking for. The question do you play is, somebody's going to hit him for 2 nights. Do you play the same game he's playing? Or do you try to get somebody who's going to book a week or 8 nights, and you gave him, instead of $225 a night, you dropped down to a $175, but he only booked 2 nights and got 1,000. You booked out that and you got 2,000, and you closed out some of those midweek dates, and you didn't have to drop down to $99 a night to get somebody to come in. So the revenue strategy plays particularly in knowing your booking window. So you're going to go in, and Airbnb tells you right now, go on Airbnb in your listing, they'll tell you, you're booking out, this is your booking window, this is your average booking out window. From their point out is what you need to start strategizing from, because you've already missed the window, everything else there. And whatever you do, it's all gamble. It's like going to the blackjack table and throwing numbers down, Now you can work intelligently, you can say, hey, it's a 30% market. Well, listen, guys, we have a hard truth, our nut to cover this is $2,500. Everybody else is around 4,000. Let's just do 3,500, call it a walk. Let's do 3,250. We'll get somebody in there. We'll make 450, $500, but this isn't our month to make money. It's June. We're busy in when the snow's on the ground in December. You play to know your market, and that AirDNA gives you that. Once you do the AirDNA, basic information, you can go and buy it. And then you model it out and said, hey, I can make 60,000 a year. Well, what does 60,000 a year look like on annual occupancy? Well, 20% occupancy, 60,000, 5,000 a month falling in somewhere around there, and then 60%, yes, it's 3,200. Well, if you're paying $4,000 a month for rent, that doesn't make sense. So model it backwards across based on occupancy, based on the revenue per percentage, per all of that. And, and you start off basic data and buy more data as the deal gets better, and then substantiate it. Find other businesses, other Airbnbs or other VRBOs that are making that much money around it. We find deals all the time where you say, oh my God, it's $130,000 a year. And you're like, well, why does it say that? It's just some standard house. And then you realize this bunch, it's near a lake, near a bunch of lakefront houses that are pulling all that data. You can't just jump on that. You gotta peel it back and really make sure, So that's the same thing. Like you could take any Airbnb that has no data, no nothing. You could spend a ton of money on Facebook advertising and get people to go there. There's one thing to be said about a destination you're marketing. Hey, we know nobody's going to come and just jump on Airbnb and come here, but we're going to make them come here. That's something, but that's when, again, right now, that's not the low hanging fruit of this market.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. Let me look to see if there are any other questions in here. I know we're at time and I know you have a dinner appointment. Guys, feel free to unmute your mics and ask your final questions. And I so appreciate you, Rob, sharing all of those nuggets. That was loaded, right, guys? That was a lot of value. If you got value from that, please comment in the chat value, because I really appreciate your wealth of knowledge and your expertise sharing with us. Thank you, Solomon. Awesome. Value. Thank you. And I know some of you have to jump off for another mastermind. Much value. So much value.
What mastermind am I missing?
I hate multifamily. Some folks are here in multifamily masterminds and women in real estate. I don't know if you would exactly qualify.
I got a wig and a pink dress somewhere.
Yeah, so awesome. Any final questions, guys, before we let Rob go? Solomon, yes, you've on mic. Go ahead, Solomon.
Yes. Hey, Rob, it's good to see you in person. I'm a huge fan of you. Obviously when you're on Clubhouse, I know you drop quite a ton of information. I wonder if so my strategy is basically to get into rental arbitrage for large single families. One of the things that I'm kind of, as I'm doing my market research, I come across properties that have been listed by property management companies. And that is a little bit of a barrier for me, in a sense that obviously they're already under management. And I think what I'm trying to do is to go through the tax records to find who owns the property, and I can do some skip tracing. So I wonder if you have any intel as to how you can work through that aspect of it. I find it to be a little bit tricky for me. Thank you.
It's a very good question. It actually is not necessarily something that I would say stay away from, and here's why. In the hierarchy of what I see as the ultimate pinnacle of building a vertical and truly passing, income and expenditures through a stream of companies, the baseline, you have the ownership. So even if you want to arbitrage, you're going to go approach somebody that's an owner, and they have set expectations. So at the bottom of the base of it is the owner of the underlying class asset. Then above that is the PM company, that its responsibility is to maintain the asset, collect rents, and pay bills. Even myself, I want to put a PM between me and the owner. The reason why is insurance liabilities and everything else. If I'm saying I'm taking care of management, the insurance is completely different. And let's say if I don't water, and this is a true statement, if I don't water if the irrigation goes out for 3 weeks, the foundation cracks, because here in Texas, you don't think of that happens, I could be liable. So even ourselves, as we look through it and see all the gaps, we see ourselves even the need to be, hey, Solomon, own the property. I'm going to have you give full total ownership and control over to this PM white label company. They're going to collect and handle everything, insurance, they're full responsible. And then they're going to cut you a check at the end of the day for your mailbox money. Then from there, they license out to us and we manage the short-term rental or the furnished booking aspects of it. So there is a hierarchy in there. I think the most important always is being able to get in front of the right person and conveying the value that you deliver. And so it could be simply that says, hey, I see that you have these assets and I just want you to understand, I think I can deliver a lot better revenue and I'm willing to split on you. What other way are you going to get their attention? Is I can make you more money. Because housing in the other markets, long-term rental, how else are you going to make? If somebody walked in and said, hey, you see the long-term rental house, you're making, $1,500 a year, you're making $200 a month across 12 months or whatever. I can make you $10,000 more money. You'd be like, yes, because there's no other way for you to make more money on long term. You're stuck into that. Like, same thing. If they don't pay you 1 month, the money doesn't magically appear next month. And even though the money's due, unless they pay it back, there's no way for you to make an extra $500 next month. Hey, we're going to come mow the lawn for you for $500, So that's kind of the aspect. We love it. And really, it's just the leverage off the opportunistic time of it. So I hope that answers some of the question, but for me, if I was to approach it, go right to the owner. Like you said, always deal right with the owner. There's no, and just through whatever you're conveying, find the value that you can be. Our promissory, even in our contracts to all of our clients, is if at any point can prove that we're not being of value, or if we don't feel we're being of value, we'll walk away from the contract, because I don't want to be in any relationship where I'm not providing a value. So find opportunities to where you can be of value or provide a value and leverage off that financially. So if you can find a path through the forest to the trees that you can show and convey to them, hey, you got these corporate units over here, you got this PM company, and you're only doing $2,000 a month, but I've got people want to come in and they'll pay me $5,000 a month. I'll pay you more and we'll do a split upside or whatever. Sure. So, awesome examples. I had a company that contacted me. They only contacted me because I was in the area and had good reviews. And they said, hey, we have a property over here. We have 180 properties. 18 of them are long-term, are furnished mid to long-term rentals. And I said, what about short-term? You guys won't play in it? Oh, he's like, oh, we don't like the taxes. And he says, and on top of that, just a lot of headache. I says, well, so I contracted him for 12.5% for any 30-day plus reservations. He whittled me down. I would have never done it. He says, fine, I'll do that. But I get 20% if I get short-term, anything 30 days. We've never done anything less than 30 days. And he's like, well, the HOA charges $50. I'm like, the guest is going to pay that. And the guest pays the taxes. And since that house has brought him out about $84,000, a little Livingston, 3-bedroom, 2-bath lakefront house. It's his grandfather's. And, he's like, I just wanted $3,000 a month. And we did a lot better. We had a lot of maintenance costs with the freeze, but, again, it's all in the opportunity, So create the opportunity or show the opportunity and make revenue off the value of it.
Thanks, Rob. Really appreciate it.
And I wanted to go back to that, the Montauk Way in DeSoto. So AirDNA has it. I did it as a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath. I assume 12 guests should be an easy occupancy in a 4, 2.5. I think it was also 2,700 square feet. So it's pretty sizable when I looked at 2,700 square feet. Yes, sorry. So you're at 79,600. So that's $79,600 average annual revenue. Average daily rate was $398, and your average annual occupancy was 55%. So if this was my clients, I'd go backwards and say, what is your cost? Even if you own it cash outright, what would an average, a note be on it? What would you be paying for a note right now in just this market? Because that's how I pencil. And so from there, because if you own it, obviously your income is going to be a lot higher, but I'm trying to go in a margin. Again, a $500,000 house, I want to make sure I'm making 30 to 40 to 45, $50,000 minimum, so you have to play that all in, but this is a good asset, and it's, 55%. The revenue being at 79,000 at 55% is great, because you can assume that at $398 a night, I could come down to $298. I can increase that occupancy rate up to about 75, 80%. Now I may lose traction from that 79,000 up at the average daily rate, but that's kind of the whole calculation. You have to, in order to gain more occupancy, you kind of have to sacrifice, unless revenue strategy and revenue management isn't about, it's about making the most money during the peak season, but it's about making the most money during your off season more appropriately. That's what's key. Making that extra more money. And are you positioned at the right time during the peak? Because some people are like, oh, we're just $250 a night, and not realizing the neighbors are getting $399, and you're just sitting there. We're booked all the time. Well, you're booked all the time. And if you're booked 6 months out, in my opinion, Airbnb, the only thing I really truly calculate is anything over the next 30 days, if that, or the next 15 days, because anybody can cancel at any point in time. It's not guaranteed business. It looks great, but anybody can choose to cancel. COVID, when COVID hit, we lost $48,000 in bookings in 2 hours because they canceled the Houston rodeo. So, but the numbers look great here. You'd want to go into the HOA, like Rachel said, see if you can look for the verbiage of either a 30-day limiter, no B&B, no occupational transient. Again, I'm happy to look over it as well to point out anything. And then from there, start running the due diligence. What is your costs versus what is the 79,000 worked over 12 months? You could buy that data. You can buy the report. It'll tell you, hey, you'll make this much, and this much. And it'll tell you where is that 79,000 allocated across, and you work it backwards.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Teresa. I hope that was helpful. It's a property that we were really interested in a few weeks ago. So definitely something that I would suggest looking into a little bit further. So a few people had to jump off. A lot of thank yous in the comments, Robert. Robert, I cannot thank you enough. If you guys have any final comments or questions real quick, I know Robert's trying to catch dinner and I'm trying to squeeze every second I can from him because he is dropping a ton of value tonight. So thank you, Robert. And for those of you who are new with us tonight, again, welcome. I know some people jumped on a little bit late. So this is a special expert guest for our Texas market analysis. So thank you again,
Rachel,
Robert.
real quick, what is that award in the background there? I want to know what that is.
That's a good question.
I can't wait to work in an area so you can maybe, if you ever would design some of my spaces.
I have to look at it. It's some kind of something. It's
come on now, don't be too modest now.
I know.
Is that your spelling bee championship for third grade?
Overstudying, some girl that overstudied on something. Yeah, the stigma. It's like an honor society thing. Yeah, nobody. He's embarrassing me now. Go ahead, Solomon.
Yeah, one final question. I think Dr. Helena had a question about asking Rob his thoughts about investing in Crystal Beach. I just need to validate something that Robert said. Robert, so you're saying that if you are arbitraging in a 5-year period, the revenue that you're going to generate, you should be able to buy the property outright. Did I catch that correct?
Yes. So for example, let's play off of something that we already did. Who had given the property address?
Teresa. I think it's Teresa.
Teresa.
Okay. So Teresa, would you mind sharing what the value of that property is current market right now?
He purchased it, I think, last year, and I'm not sure, but I want to say he purchased it about $400,000 to $500,000. Sorry, I'm in another meeting. Hope that you can hear me.
No, that's fine. Absolutely. So again, 3 to 5 times. So it was 80. If it's $500,000, you want 100,000 a year. So it plays into that. If it's in a nicer area, like I said, it's at 55%. So even market, I've got a lot of room to grow to get to 100. I know I'm going to have to hack at that 398, but I think that makes sense. Again, 3 to 5. So you look at the annual revenue number that it averages and estimates out. So, 80,000, 840. So I'm looking at $450,000 house as being an ideal opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. I was looking at something else and the numbers were a little bit crazy. And I wanted to kind of just validate what you just say. I'll send you an address, Dr. Rachel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to take, and I've got a staff that I just do it at night. My VA overnight who works and monitors all our cameras. Him and Josue, our other team member, they do all my comps overnight, and so it's getting to a point where the investors are bothering me so much. I just like, here's a text line. Please text the address here, and within 48 hours, we'll send you a Google Doc drive with the comps. So just because it's an aggressive market, and for a while we weren't doing anything because the opportunity of trying to buy a property, run the comps and everything, and before it even just got bought out underneath you was just not possible. You start getting, it wasn't up until, really the last few months, I've had an investor trying to had $500,000 cash burning a hole in his pocket. And we went to a variety of places. And for me, especially if you want my opinion, I'll say no very quickly and easily, because, you're depending upon, me risking our friendship and our relationship in that. And if I'm going to go forward, I'm going to make sure the juice is worth the squeeze.
That's awesome. And I love the balance of saying, you're not saying yes to everything, you're saying no to some things as well. So that's a part of it too. And it's a roadblock that we have been struggling with because quite a few of us in this group have been looking to invest in properties, or whether it's arbitrage or purchasing. But if the numbers don't make sense and ultimately you're not going to see your ROI, I do hesitate as well, Robert. So thank you for validating that. But I've seen some interesting things in some new markets as well. We've been talking a little bit about Crystal Beach in Texas, which is a new market that we are exploring as well.
Crystal Beach right there, Galveston. Is
Yeah.
that falling under Galveston's? Yeah. I mean, Galveston's regulated. They're good to go. I mean, I just got their bill for their renewal and it's $50. So, I mean, don't think regulations are no. Look at the regulations. You know, like some places, all first name, last name, what's the address, pay $50. Boof, you got to. Well, that wasn't hard. You know, anybody could do that. You know, so it's like some places are simply that. You know.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, all right. I feel like we have gotten a lot of information from you, Robert. I can't thank you enough. If we need to reach out, guys, definitely send me an address, send me any questions for Robert, and I will definitely reach out to him. He has been so gracious and so responsive to you guys and your questions and you learning. When I asked him to jump in, he said, absolutely, he would definitely come in and speak with you guys. So again, thank you, Robert. I hope you have a wonderful evening, a great dinner. Bon appetit, my friend.
Thank
Very much.
you.
Thank you for inviting me on, everybody, and thank you for your time. And I wish you the best, and may God bless your journey. And go forward. I would say with purpose. That's the most important thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening. Bye for now, guys. See you guys next week.
Bye.